Hi, my name is Drew Clark, CEO and President of Star Royalties. We just announced a $50 million facility with NBF yesterday, and I'm here to talk to Matt about it.
Drew, I thought we'd take advantage of getting a hold of you. Appreciate time. Look, obviously, actually break it down in terms of, you secured this initial facility with an extension available to you. So, and tell us also who it's from, where the money's from is important.
So I'll start with the last question there. It's from a tier one bank in Canada here. So that validation for us, we think is important. And you typically don't see banks of that size coming down and lending money to businesses of our size. So we take that as a huge compliment to the team and the portfolio that's there. The facility itself, we have a revolving credit facility for $25 million US that's available to us right now. And then there's an accordion, which you call an extension, but an accordion for an additional 25 million at the same terms as the revolving credit facility. And what this does for us, just as an extension, is it enables us to have that capital available when we go out to deploy and look at more creative opportunities. It's a massive validation for us, and it really lowers our cost of capital.
Right. Yeah, obviously. But obviously, look, I think the last time out we talked about a few things, which I think is important to kind of remind myself of, which is obviously broadening size and quality of the transactions available to you. I guess this money helps with that, and also continuing to make sure you're buying quality. So just in that context, I mean, does your behavior change? And if so, given this increased facility?
Well, I think if you're going to use debt, you need to be using something that's cash flowing or near-term cash flowing. So I think there's an inherent discipline that comes with this capital. Not that we were going to be loose with our sort of deployment ahead of time, but I think there's a natural, like, you're not going to start paying debt on something that's not going to cash flow in 3 to 5 years. That's just something you don't do. So I think there's a discipline on that side. But yeah, the use of this capital, not only does it just lower our overall access to capital going forward, is it's going to be used for cash flowing and near-term cash flowing opportunities, as soon as we can.
Okay, so but let's look at that. I think last time we talked about obviously the Star acquisition, which was a big move for you guys. Are there more opportunities like that out there, given the very sort of tight remit and that you put on your own acquisition strategy?
So, are you talking about other M&A opportunities, or are you talking about for the scale of the Copperstone acquisition we just did?
Well, I think just broadly, it's like, your capital allocation and return on that invested capital, however you deploy that within the royalty space, whether it be through M&A or direct into royalties. You tell me, what are you focused on?
We're focused on everything. And I know that's not an answer that's super informative, but we're looking at M&A for sure. We may be prey or predator. And then we're also looking at more third-party opportunities within larger companies where there's portfolios coming in there. And then we have opportunities coming in all the time on cash flowing and near-term cash flowing assets. We've got, right now, the flavor of the week seems to be tungsten. Tungsten streams are coming in. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities in space. And I think what's interesting from our perspective is when we were looking at deploying capital, when gold was up around 4,800 or 5,000, the delta between the long-term pricing and spot was so dramatic that it was kind of hard to clear. We're actually seeing a pretty productive market on our end for actually getting some deals done. And I think that's being echoed by some of my peers in the space. So it's a good market right now if you're not using equity, and that's why we're excited to have this debt piece in place.
Right. Okay. And I think last time, Andrew, you said to me, like, we've rejected over $250 million worth of potential transactions here. So let me ask the question in slightly different ways. Like, on what basis did you reject those opportunities?
Well, so I'll correct you here in a funny way. We were rejected $250 million worth of transactions. So we would bid 65 million, it'll clear at 80. So we have taken swings before. So I think our terms were not generous enough to clear those hurdles. So that's just to correct you on that one. So maybe I misspoke last time we chatted.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of deals that you did look at back then compared to the types of deals that you do look at now, again, does that rejection criteria change or evolve slightly, or is it ultimately just about this stated discipline that you talk about?
I think it's ultimately about the stated discipline. We've had access to capital that probably wasn't as obvious to people. And now that we've had this facility and we've announced it to the market, I think it's a little bit more front and center. But we have made big offers in the past using other sources of debt and equity that we've had available to us. So I don't know if it changes a lot, but I think the phone will probably ring a little bit more as a result of this, because now there's, okay, you guys actually have meaningful capital. And before, when we were doing these deals, call it about a year ago this time, we had to go out and raise this equity. We had to, there's a lot of trust us and we'll get it done. Whereas now we actually have a facility we can pull on. So I think the cadence of being able to close these things will be a lot enhanced by this. Is probably the biggest takeaway.
Right, and let's look at what kind of the drivers here. Like ultimately, as a shareholder, I care if the share price moves. Yeah, like for you talk about growing NAV and cash flow on a per share basis. But going from equity through to debt as the kind of this cash component, the cash solution for you. How does that change the return profile? Does it elongate it somehow, or what should I be? What do I need to know?
Well, it really depends what you're using. So in the case of equity, so the biggest deal we've done in the history of the company is we bought Star. That was an equity for equity transactions where we're using one multiple and paying another one. When you're using debt, that is a crystallized value in time when you buy it. So I think the assurance of return and it going into production would have to be heightened when you're using debt, versus a more long-dated option to use equity. So there's different tools at your disposal at different times. And then there's obviously the combination of the two, which, you saw Elemental just do recently on the acquisition of Star Royalties. So it depends on the nature of the asset. And from a duration standpoint, a long duration asset, you could write debt against that. An uncertain asset would be more difficult to do that with.
Right. Okay. So, because ultimately, the credit facility should reduce, dilution, as you say. But I'm just trying to understand in terms of how you guys kind of gauge, this return that we're looking for. The real test is going to be whether the return on the acquired assets exceeds, your cost of debt, and basically increases the value per share. But that doesn't automatically happen until certain trigger points for the market. It seems. Is it when you hit X amount of revenue, people start paying attention to you doing this, or what's your reading on it from past experience?
So I guess philosophically, there is a internal belief that I hold with the board. There is a threshold where people are going to care about Summit. And is that a 20? Is that a 30 million euro revenue? We know when we get to that number, this thing will trade at 1 to 1.2 times NAV along with its peers, versus the 0.6 right now. This thing will trade at 15 to 20 times its revenue versus, less than 10 at a run rate where we're at right now. So we are obviously very engaged in trying to close that gap, and being able to do that with debt, with the belief that we hold wholeheartedly in our hearts, that with the belief that when we get to that number, this whole thing will trade over 1 times NAV. That's kind of what this tool is going to be used for. So I think that, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's really what's driving here.
Yeah, but I guess ultimately it's like if I look at the next 2 years, you talk about you got to get some kind of cash return from your investments the next sort of 2 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Your goal for end of 2028 looks like what in terms of gold equivalent ounces or annual revenue. You've set yourself some targets.
Well, right now we're quite comfortable. We can get up to 4,000 gold equivalent ounces by the end of 2028 at a run rate. And I think I've shared this with you in the past. Like we had a 10 million revenue line, then became 20. So we're going to keep growing that. And we're not sure if it's 25 or 30 million in revenue that people start to care. But we do believe that there's a market cap threshold where institutions start to care, and I think there's a revenue threshold where people sort of say you're a real player, and we don't know what that tipping point is. Not to use a reference of a Malcolm Gladwell book, but I think there is an element where there will be that aha moment, and maybe we're already there. And I don't want to short sell us that the market's just not there at the moment, but We've seen it with our peers. We saw it in my previous company. You have to grind and show discipline and show creative deals along the way, and just know that the market will eventually reward it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I say we can. I don't want to get into old ground, which we talked about just 3 weeks ago, with regards to the kind of portfolio and how that's performing, your assumptions around that one. So I think for now that's good. You did what you said. Got that facility in place. So congrats on that one, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt.